Hey everyone, today I've got a video about sunny steps at the request of one of my viewers, so let's get started. To begin with, for drop spots, as a duo you would like to send one member of the duo to this main building and then one to this second building. These allow you to control both really easily as well as get weapons for ARing people out of the sky if they have a worse drop than you, since they're pretty much forced to go towards this side. If you're in a situation in which you have the option between picking up a gun spawn or picking up the chest, I would recommend picking up the gun pretty much every time, even if it's a gray pistol, since chests are extremely RNG. If you lose the game because you just pick up a hunting rifle, it's just not a good feeling. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're gliding in, try to look at the vending machine so you know like what you can work with, and you want to be able to hit a geyser on your way in, since otherwise you are going to deploy too highly over the mountain. If your drop here gets taken from you, then I would recommend branching off into this secondary building. This building's pretty good because it has a lot of floor loot, so you can pretty reliably get a gun. I honestly don't like this building too much because if you land here in the beginning, you're not going to farm mats, and the chest spawns and everything are a little bit scattered, so it's not that efficient. Also, there's many angles in which people can shoot you if you're in this building. I'll show some peaks in a second. So this peak is mostly one that the player who lands at the main building will use. You can stand and use third person to see where the enemies are, and then when you decide to shoot, you can use the right hand peek. Similarly, this middle building can be used by both duos. With this one, if you move your character behind the leaves, you're pretty much completely covered, otherwise you're going to be visible. You can do the same thing on this side, and I'd recommend just camping that chest because it's pretty much bound to be taken eventually, right? And this peak can be hardly seen on this level. It's a little bit better on this level. If this player gets a right hand peek, they won't even be able to see. So that one is pretty advantageous. Alright. Here that's crouching, so just repositioning. I think if I wore a different skin it would literally be impossible to tell, but if you go underneath these areas, then it's also pretty difficult to see. Yeah, impossible here. That's what it looks like. And then with this one, see, you can't even see the person with the leaves there. But like obviously this player can shoot through them. Likewise on this side. See? Yep. One thing to note is that this player should build a ramp if they're trying to block a shot after they take one. They can see through the ramp if they hold the edit. I'll just show it actually. If you and your duo realize that you're not going to get contested at your main buildings, then it's viable to send the player that goes here over to this building to steal the loot effectively from this team. This is going to create a huge loot imbalance, and honestly, this team will be probably forced to just geyser out unless they get pretty lucky on their openings or whatever. If you're landing at this building, then the way you should play it is you break into these cracked floors. Each of them has a couple chests or a couple floor spawns underneath, or maybe, yeah. So following that, you can decide to either, if your loot is good enough and you want to contest, maybe you got like 2 AR tags while they're flying. So it's better if you just get like what you can get and then try to rush them, So you don't necessarily need to go down every time. There's some loot spawns over here, but you lose a lot of time by going through these, so it's not necessarily the best route you should take. Always hit this chest, of course, get some, hit the pots and the faces for brick for build fights. Go through this route, and then check here. From here you can, you should be watching the enemy team the whole time, ideally, of course, but that's not feasible, so every now and again just take another peek, make sure you're using right hand whenever you can. And then the duo who lands at the beta, or this building, should ideally make their way here and control the middle area so that this team is really confined to the outskirts. And then once that happens, you guys can set up a pinch essentially onto a building. By setting up a pinch on the building, you can take advantage of the windows and just like the building layout in general, like maybe going from the top or just pressuring them from angles that aren't too expected. In terms of these windows, you just to go through it, put a cone and then crouch when you're walking or moving through it rather than just standing, otherwise you won't be able to move through it. One good thing about this drop is that you're never really forced to take a 50-50, because if you're cognizant of where your enemy drops, then you can generally branch off. Like if the bus is coming this way, you can choose between either these 3 buildings or the middle building here, and obviously if it's coming this way, you can choose between that main building or just flying further. Also, the way that the loot spawns here, where there's like 3 floor spawns like right next to each other in a few places, is actually really nice because you have a higher chance of finding something that you can actually use rather than just like relying on one 50-50 chest spawn. Also, you get a lot of efficient brick. There's no metal here, which kind of sucks, but that gives you also a quicker rotate, we'll say, to like the the sky platform, and then from there you just make your rotation. You can probably just branch it into this slipstream and take it however far you need to go. Rotates are pretty decent coming out of here because you never are relying on a vehicle because there are none. So just hit the geysers, or walk through. If you hit the geyser, it's more of a aggressive play because you can spot more players, and let's say people, like as a duo, you're not always going to be right on each other's back. So if you can, let's say one person's farming over here and one person's farming over here, just swan one of them, then you can create a situation that you're more likely to win really easily, just like that. Also, since there's a lot of baller spawns, like here, and here, and then here, you're not going to be able to rely on getting the surrounding loot, even like the vending machine here, because as you know, baller players are pretty much just picking up this like random chests here, random stuff there. It's just the playstyle. But you also have to be cognizant of how long your fights last, because they're probably going to watch you, or they can hear the sounds of the fight, and if it's not going to finish quickly, then you're liable to get third-partied, of course. I'm rating Sunny a 5.5 out of 10 because there's no vehicles and no metal. And also, if you want to land here, you should make sure you have really good AR aim. Well, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. Thanks. Shout out to CharaYB also for suggesting this video, so thank him for that. See ya.